Alright guys, such Huke again today. Hope you're doing good and enjoying all day so far. The final weekend of qualifiers for the entire season, not starting in the way that OpTic Texas would have wanted. All the talk last weekend, Mercules is here, the team is back. They're going to be potentially grand finals the next major. That may well still be true, but today was certainly not the ideal case scenario. Hector not a happy man after the result today, and for very good reason. A team that barely wins all year somehow gets the win today in basically unforgivable circumstances in many respects. Other important series of the day as well, because it's not going to lie, the World Championship qualification spot could still be up for grabs. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. This is the setup for DreamHack Dallas. Now, I'm not sure I've seen a full map yet of the entire venue, where everything is going to be, where the Halo's going to be, where the Counter-Strike's going to be, where the chess is going to be, where the GeoGuess is going to be. I think they've got all these things going on there, but this is the setup here for Major 4. We've got the main stage, we've got the side stage. Let's not forget on the Friday, that side stage is going to be pro matches because they're going to have to run simultaneous games to get everything through, which is spectacular as far as I'm concerned. We're going to be here on the watch parties, VIP seating, reserve seating, open seating, challengers pit. This is as traditional Call of Duty event as it comes. We've not had an event like this in a very long time. We've had some open events, right? The last few years, they've done the occasional open event. Obviously, the Saudi Arabian Esports World Cup is pretty different kettle of fish to what a traditional esports event would look like. And, well, this is kind of, when I remember going to Anaheim 2019, this is what it was like. And even London as well was kind of the same story, but like London was done in the Cobblebox Arena, like a basketball stadium. Anaheim was done at the Anaheim Convention Center. This is done at the Convention Center in Dallas. So, you know, the point still stands, everything together in one room, and it's even better than that because it's not just COD. There's so much other things, you know, going on as well. So massively looking forward to getting out there to Dallas. This is an interesting update. I don't know what to make of this exactly. We know that the Carolina Royal Ravens, and frankly many teams in the CDL, are potentially under fire from others looking to buy them out. We've heard interest from some of the Saudi teams potentially getting involved. Ravens and Boston on paper would be the two franchises that might be most likely to go. We've got Ravens, their parent company. So a few years ago, their parent company was a company called Infinite Reality. So Rect Global, they own like Rogue Gaming, the Ravens, they've rebranded to Carolina. Obviously some of the Spanish guys got involved at some point. It was a bit of a mess, but this company Infinite Reality got involved. They did a merger. They said they were worth $2 billion, and therefore this acquisition was worth $470 million. Nobody, especially we talked about it at the time, I remember, believed any of those numbers were anything near real. We know that Ravens are one of the worst managed teams in the league and have been for a very long time, and frankly they're lucky to still be here. I mean, you know, last year they tried to host an event and it failed spectacularly. So, and apparently their parent company has rebranded to Napster. Whether they're looking to bring Napster back from, you know, back in the day, of course, the origins of kind of like music streaming, or exactly what's going on, I simply couldn't answer that question for you, but I'll simply throw it out there because, let's be honest, Ravens probably aren't going to be too long for this world at this point. Let's talk about some of the matches. This we saw, OpTic versus Ravens, and Huke decided to bring this out. And this is why it's very interesting when players decide to use these type of wallbang spots, because this was a spot that they deployed very successfully against Ravens last weekend. Huke got this wallbang spot here. And in many respects, it kind of ruins the map, right? Because now you can't really plant B. You're just going to get wallbanged in the garage, and in an ideal world, the developers fix this so the wallbang isn't possible. Unless you've got FMG on your assault rifle. Back in the day in proper games like Black Ops 2, you couldn't wallbang stuff like this with a normal AR. I mean, okay, let's say I've got the M8A1 in hand in this particular spot. With no FMJ, this is probably taking me a full clip to kill the guy. With FMJ, it might take me 2 bursts, 3 bursts, something like that. That's how the games used to be designed, that you could have full metal jacket on your weapon, and some people used it, right? It was actually a feature. You'd put the ammo on, which could penetrate the walls a little bit better. Nowadays, don't matter about that. You just bang through the wall regardless, and it just goes through like paper. Last year was a massive issue, as we know, on, well, several maps, to be honest. The HyDra exploited to great effect as well. But it seems the pros have decided that, you know what, this is a bit much, and we're not going to be using it anymore, and they're effectively going to GA it, which definitely raises questions, because OpTic used this, and it was probably known by others, but no one was using it yet. And I wonder if people were kind of waiting for it to get used, and then they were going to be like, okay, we need to GA it, right? Because had OpTic saved this, we're not that far from Champs. Like, this isn't Major 1, right? Like, Champs is not far away. OpTic theoretically could have saved it, pulled it out at Champs, And then what you're going to do, day one of champs, you're going to GA it for the rest of the weekend. Good luck with that, right? So, people will just start banning dealership. So I think, honestly, this might be a sensible decision because it keeps the map playable. But I think from OpTic's perspective, you might wonder whether, should they have shown their hands now? Maybe they've got other things they're going to hide as well. Intrigued to your thoughts as always in the comments below. But let's get into it, right? Because OpTic play Gentlemates today. Gentlemates are not a good team. We know that to be very, very clear indeed. There's some talent on the team. Kismet's talented player. Like, I think all of the guys are talented, but it's just as a team, they look like a shambles. And also for Gorillas, like, the last few series they played, I have felt an upset was possible because, as I said this morning, they are better than their record indicates. And I made that very clear this morning, and I think that is true. But my difficulty at picking them to have any of these upsets recently has been that mentally they just seem a bit compromised. Like, they're at a point in the season, they're not going to champs, their team's in a bit of a shambles, their coaching staff is a bit of a mess as well. Like, not the individuals, but just the whole structure of it has been a nightmare this season behind the scenes. The changes they've looked to make, rumours about certain things happening, people getting involved, trying to get people fired or whatever. The changes they made with the roster, Lin's potentially on the bench looking to come back for the World Cup. Like, so many pieces. It just felt like this was going to be a team that effectively they may just individually try and look good from now to the end of the year to try and help their chances of getting signed. It's often that's how it goes. And when a team is kind of mentally compromised like that, actually winning a series, they can be close, but actually winning the series is a big challenge. And frankly, they shouldn't have won either of the maps that they won in the series, or certainly either of the hardpoint maps they won in the series. And that's really starts in the game one. A Skyline hardpoint game one, OpTic had this, they definitely had it in the balance of probabilities that they were going to win. Okay, big takeover from Johnny game one, and eventually they lose the spawns and they lose the map. Again, this is the issue, right? OpTic go into this series, of course, they're expecting to win, and that's totally fair enough. So OpTic lose a game one, okay, it happens, let's bounce back in the search and destroy. That's what they do. Again, it wasn't clean, it required another big wallbang spot here from Shotzzy. This one maybe is slightly more difficult to GA, because at the end of the day, it's like, you can plant in other spots on this site. This is more of a post-plant wallbang, which has always existed in COD. But again, like, you got to think, right, OpTic kind of really needed this wallbang spot to work for them, which I've not really seen anyone else do, in order to actually win the map. They did win the map, and then they dominate the control, and the feeling is, okay, OpTic are back, right, okay, they lose the game one, but they're still going to close out the series. FeLo had a really difficult time here on the game two. They dominate the vault control, not even close. Lunarz had barely any kills at all. Mercury's again with a good takeover. Shotzzy and Huke taking over the map, and it was looking all too rosy for the win. But again, this is then the moment that defines the series, right? So Shotzzy decides that it would be a good idea to shoot Kismet's body. Now, we know what history says about shooting Kismet's body, or just riling up the Bulldog in general. It doesn't often end too well, and Kiz is having a decent map here, actually. Gets gunned by Shotzzy, gets his body shot, and still, the map looks unlosable. But this is when OpTic just managed to score onto the map. They blow a couple of rotations. Even this, though, 233 to 178. You got to think they've got to win it. All OpTic really have to do is take a bit of time. I know that people were saying, okay, maybe Mercury's was due a bit of a weaker series. It's not like he was bad, but it's just, I mean, how do you lose this map? How do you lose this map? You're up 66 to 2. You're up 214 to 123. You're literally leading every hill of the entire game until the final hill where eventually Gorillas take the win. To lose in this way was brutal, and then they go to a game 5 clearly a bit mentally compromised, and they end up losing that one as well. So, brutal way to lose. I mean, look, can OpTic lose to anyone? It's just how it is. Like, this is the most OpTic Texas situation here for 2025, is that somehow OpTic lost to Falcons and then it lost to Gentlemates, the two worst teams in the league by a country mile. But that's just how it is. And it really came at a difficult time. I mean, there was, not this ideal round where they're down 5-2 and Naze comes through, Mercury's RC blows up his whole team. So it just wasn't meant to be, but also the OpTic guys will not be happy. I mean, just, playing this clip out here really when looking at the OpTic guys thinking, well, hang on a second, I thought we were back, right? And unfortunately, Hex said it before. He was like, well, yeah, we're over it, right? The difficulty, the 0-18 situation, it's over now and it's only brighter pastures ahead. Look, it's an online qualifier at the end of the day, but the OpTic guys are certainly pretty speechless. Obviously, Hector's really annoyed with the fact that he gets on his scooter and just rides off through all the cameras is comedy goals. But yeah, understandably not. I mean, how do you lose a series? Everyone else has at least been beating them. Like, Rocker even clutched up game 5 against this team, and OpTic didn't do it. So incredibly tough. Obviously, it's still early days for Mercules and the team, but this is a stat that is pretty remarkable, right? The Gentamates have beaten OpTic for the first time in basically 5 years. 4 years, 11 months, 3 days was the last time that this franchise, Los Angeles Grillers, beat OpTic Texas or beat OpTic of any form, because back then, of course, it wasn't even OpTic, right? I mean, you know, back in the day, this was the type of duo that you're looking at. And if you look at the overall numbers, okay, it looks fine for OpTic, right? They all played okay, which is true, but the reality is it came, I mean, a lot of it was on the game 3, right, where they just dominated. FeLo had 6 kills, Lunarz had 3 kills, 3 and 17, right? Like, you know, when you win a map like, how do you win a map like that? Start the game 4 so strong and then still lose anyway. Kismet got his body shot and then took over. Like, Shotzzy was having a real good map until that point. So, again, it's just one of those moments for OpTic that kind of defines their season, and it shouldn't be the end of the world. It really shouldn't, but if we just have a quick little peek at the championship standings, we'll see that Rocker have closed in by 10 points, which, you know, it's nothing crazy, but if Rocker were to make the finals now at the major, then all of a sudden they give themselves a very, very good chance of beating OpTic to the World Championship, because Rocker, they went on to win their series as well. I thought Ravens in 5 was a reasonable call, but fair play to Rocker, they finally did it. I mean, we know that Ravens have been in a bit of a slump, and they did manage to win the game 1 anyway, even though it's a super close one. Rocker then bounced back in the search. I mean, again, Rocker, they tried their best to throw this map. They were up like 4-1. They brought it back to 4-4. Rex had a 1v1 here against Estriel to potentially go up 5-4. He lost it. Geo then clutched a 1v2 in the final round. Slasher goes down. You know, at the end of the day, there was a bit of talk about this because Slasher was talking all this about the other day being the best search and destroy player and all that. And then they play Rocker, a team that has struggled to win search and destroys recently, let's say, and he ends up losing it, of course. It has been a big issue for Ravens pretty much this entire year, has been keeping some consistency in their search and destroy. Geo with a nice little play here at the end, clutches the 1v2, gets the defuse on the bomb. That's 6-5, that's 1-1. And from there, they actually do a really good job. This, clearly, I've put this screenshot in slightly the wrong place, but you guys get the picture on that one. It was then a closely fought control. Rocker eventually took it in around 5. I mean, Ravens will really feel like they should have closed out this round 3-1. Gwinn with kind of an uncharacteristically difficult time lately. I mean, how often are you going to see Gwinternet online at 12.7? I don't know exactly what this is. I know there's been a feeling now for a little bit of time that maybe Gwinn is a little bit, don't want to say checked out exactly, but something to that effect where he's just, I don't know, it's felt the case, if you look at the player cams and stuff for the last couple of stages maybe, that Gwinn doesn't seem especially satisfied. And, I mean, like, that's not to say that you should be dropping stinker numbers like these, but it is possibly to say that Gwinn has not been the player in the second half of the season so far than he was in the first half. And, you know, maybe he's just saving up all his power for LAN and he's going to turn up to Dallas and he's going to fry. But honestly, fair play to Rocker. Clutching up in the control, clutching up in the round 11, and, you know, they won the Skyline as well. I mean, Rex was 35 and 25. It's nice to see Rex actually starting to deliver a little bit, but right now it's come at the expense of Gwinn, dropping a 0.7. Estriel, Geo, Nero had a great series. I mean, look, the unfortunate thing for Ravens, they'll look at this and say, damn, of course Nero chooses this moment to have an absolutely generational series. And Nero's got these series in him, right? But, you know, 15k damage, 121 kills, like just insane takeover from Nero, really. The final map was kind of a great example of that, but Estriel was on fire as well. But Rocker, when they needed the points, they delivered the points. The final series, I'll run through this in about 30 seconds. Thieves, Boston. Boston have been slumping lately, but this was no doubt one of the most dominant series of the entire season. Pretty funny, like game 1 was so dominant, and then you go to game 2, Thieves destroy them on that as well, and then you just know the game 3 is going to be a 3-0 stomping because it's not been a good game mode for Boston this year. It's been the game mode for the Los Angeles Thieves. And yeah, they continue to steamroll. I mean, I look at this Thieves team and I'm like, this is the closest that you're going to get to something like a Cold War FaZe with the level of dominance that they have previously shown. That's where we are today, but FaZe, of course, are still FaZe, and they're going to be in action for the rest of the weekend as well. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. Very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
I'm taking it. Oh my god.
We've seen those before.
So now OpTic decided they're going to LAG their own LAG.
Right.
You see, yeah. You said who could LAG harder? Well, it's OpTic. 4v2 for LAG. They'll hunt it down.
How? Are we not looking at the fucking minimap?
That nobody saw coming. Finally, something to be fired up about in the LAG camp. Johnny, what a series out of him. And for this new look OpTic. I don't know. It's like you lose to Breach. You're like, okay, well, work to do. Then you win that 3 over Caroline. It's like, oh, great. But this loss is...
Oh, that is a very tough one. Wow.
That is disgusting work out of you.